Welcome to our Talking with Titans. Myself and Sean are absolutely delighted to have two of our partners from West Ham United Women. So we've got the lovely Martha Thomas on, and of course Colm Smith. If we go to Martha to give a bit of an intro into your background, how you started off, all that sort of good stuff.
I was born in England, but at 5 or 6 years old, I moved to the US due to my dad's job. So my whole family packed up, moved to Florida. And ever since then, I lived in the US. I went to university in North Carolina. So I played at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I did that for 4 years. Unfortunately, at the end of my 4-year career there, I tore my ACL. So that was a big step back for me, as I was hoping to go play professionally straight after uni. So that kind of put a bit of a damper on that, but I had a good recovery, came back and then got the opportunity to go to France. So took that and played for Hack, who were in the second division at the time, now in the first division. So I played there for a year and then got the move to West Ham. And this is my second year now.
In terms of going into that professional space after uni, were you thinking over in the US and then the injury happened and that couldn't work out?
Yeah, the plan was to put my name into the draft to get drafted out of college into the NWSL. Obviously, the timing of the ACL made that impossible. I would have missed the entire season. So that kind of just pretty much cut that off for me. And then it was looking elsewhere.
Over to yourself, Colm. So give us a bit of an intro to yourself.
Yeah, I grew up basically Gaelic football was the only sport I played. My father was heavily involved in Gaelic football, done a lot of athletics when we were younger as well.
Okay.
Kind of anything that could keep us running. As such, my mother wanted to burn as much energy off us before we came in the door at night. Then later on, I was lucky enough to play underage at Cavan, played under 14, 15, 16, minor under 21. So I moved to London then when I was 24. It's mad to think that it's been a long 6 years. So when I moved over at the start, I was primarily working with London GAA, just doing little bits and pieces around London, going into schools in London and doing Gaelic football coaching. Fortunately enough, then a position came up at Harlequins to do an internship for a year. So started working in rugby then for 12 months. So it was really interesting to see that different culture. The year after, I worked with Ealing Trailfinders, who were in the Championship of Rugby. All the while working with Gaelic football clubs, working with hurling clubs, doing basically every bit and bob that I could over during the week. And then during the summer for 2 years straight, I used to fly home to play club football for Kingscourt. So that was a commitment in itself. You just do all of June, July, August, September, flying over and back. Probably still why my fiance is still with me to this day. So
because you got a break.
Exactly. So then from that, I ended up working with Isha Rugby. They were a National 1 rugby team, and I got an opportunity to work with the Chelsea women within their academy system. Last February, I got the opportunity with West Ham.
You guys started watching, it's on Netflix at the moment. I've been raving about it. The Playbook. The premise of the series is basically all these amazing coaches all around the world give guidance and advice, like their top rule. The Dawn Staley one is basically the 24-hour rule. So you've got 24 hours after a match to celebrate if you've won, to be excited, to be talking about it nonstop. But you also only have 24 hours if you've lost, to mourn the loss and get over it and to let it go. Colm, when it comes to your players, or Martha, even from your own perspective, and I even know from my own days when I was playing sports that I really struggled with the loss. I hated losing. Do you have a similar kind of mentality, guys? How do you guys manage that?
A lot of the time you've got more downs than highs just because that's the way the game goes. So I definitely struggle with switching off after matches, especially if I haven't played well or the team hasn't played well. Especially with technology nowadays, you can go back and watch the game about 6 times and wonder what you could have done differently. At the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it other than take the points and learn from it. But yeah, I think I'll try and reflect on it, and then I'll try and probably distract myself in any way I can, whether that's putting something on the TV or going to hang out with friends, things like that, talk to my family, just about anything other than football. That's probably one of the main ways I try and switch off, especially before going to sleep. That's the time when every single minute of the game will just run through my head for 90 minutes. So trying to find ways to, keep myself from doing that and switching off. And it's much easier when you've played well and, scored a few goals, and the highlights of that game allow you to fall asleep much sooner than missing an open goal or not doing something well. So it is tough, but we've been doing it for a while, so there's definitely resources and ways to get around that.
In terms of how the sport in the US, in soccer in particular, is over there compared to the UK, Is it as developed for women as it is over in the UK?
I only played in England for probably about 1 or 2 years. I think as soon as I started running, I was playing football, but the only really opportunity I had was to play with the boys team over here. And then when I moved to America, I think like my family was a bit shocked at the opportunity for girls. You know, there was a club team 5 minutes down the road from my house, and if I went the other direction, there was one 15 minutes away. So I think the opportunity for kids and girls and boys in sport in America is much larger than it was in England. Obviously, everything's improving. You know, you're talking about 18 years ago. You know, as soon as I stepped foot in America, the opportunity was there for me to play competitively. It is a bit expensive, so I think that is a big barrier for some people. Obviously, in the UK, a lot of the club teams are supported by professional teams. You know, kids grow up playing for free, as opposed to in America, you play to pay football. So I think that's a barrier for a lot of people in the US to have the opportunity to play. I mean, if your families can't afford it, you can't afford it. The leagues where you have to travel state to state, I mean, that's expensive. America's massive. From the game, you know, growing up, I played in South Florida, so a lot of the girls and coaches on my team were Hispanic, kind of added a bit different of like a more technical side of thing, where I know if you move up further north in the United States, it's much more physical, much more athletic kind of game. So I think it was a bit of a shock when I went to university, in the sense that, I mean, the athleticism of some of the girls you're going up to, I never stepped foot in a gym really until my first day of uni. So, you know, I'm 18 playing against 22-year-olds that have been in the gym for 4 years, absolutely rapid and strong and fit. I think that was a bit of a shock to the system, but I adjusted well. I adjusted to the physicality. I had a great experience at Charlotte. Luckily enough, I was very successful there, and it kind of helped, you know, shape and mold me into the player I am now.
I know you worked with the Chelsea Academy girls prior to this, but generally when it was GAA, was it more male than female that you worked with?
Yeah, when I came to London first, I think when I was 24, I managed the London ladies team at the time.
Okay.
I think I was the second youngest person within the whole squad. I think there was one girl younger than me, and then the rest of the players were all older than me.
Oh.
But from working at Chelsea, I've seen a massive explosion in women's sport. Like, I remember looking at the trial list between the first year I was there and then 2.5, nearly 3 years, and the difference in what was coming through from a technical aspect of football, or soccer as we should call it, was phenomenal. And I think you see it in Ireland as well. Like, you see the amount of girls going to play Aussie rules and getting that opportunity to play a professional sport. I think when you look at netball over here, there's a big push for netball, and I'd never really seen it until I come over here, and that's an unbelievable sport. That is an unbelievable sport that I don't think gets enough recognition.
In terms of the progress that's been made, be it coverage and maybe more funding, all that sort of stuff, what kind of place do you think women's football is in today?
I think it's really exciting. I think if you look back 20 years, you know, women were even struggling to play sport. And I think a lot of cases now it's becoming a norm. And I think that's important. There's always going to be the people out there that, you know, the amount of times I've got people telling me you go back to the kitchen and stupid stuff like that. That's just like extremely outdated, extremely rude. And I think if we continue to progress the way we are, you know, at one point women's football was bigger than men's football until it kind of got shut down. So I think we can get back to that place. I mean, women are very different to men genetically, so the sport is going to be different. You know, women's football and men's football are different sports. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm as fast and as strong as a male. I know I would lose a race to a professional male footballer. There's no doubt about that. And I think a lot of us are asking for that. I think we just want our platform, you know, to be respected and to help generations of younger kids, of younger women, of younger girls to have something to look forward to and know that sport is a place for them and football is a place for them. I think the way it's growing and the funding that's coming in, and that we're, you know, being respected as athletes is absolutely massive. 20 years from now is going to be a really exciting time or maybe even less than that, is going to be a really exciting time for, you know, women in sport all across the board, not just football. And the league just went fully professional last year, so to be, you know, in the league when it's just gone fully professional, you know, that's a stepping stone for women's sport, and I can't wait to continue to see it progress. So I think it's exciting to know that, one, you can have a career in football, but two, you can make decent money from it like the men's players are. So I think that's also equally exciting.
I don't think we have to look at football on its own. I think we can look at female athletes across the board. Is there anyone that you kind of look to and think, yeah, that person really paved the way, and I'd love to be that person for the younger generations coming up the ranks?
Serena Williams, for me, I mean, she is top draw in everything she does, and being an athlete and the kind of person she is, And the example that she sets for athletes all over the world, and especially female young athletes who hope to get into sport. She is someone that you can look up to and aspire to be.
It's people like that who are kind of role models, and they're showing, okay, well, you can do all these different sports and then you can specialize. And Katie Taylor for me was always one that if you listen to Irish male boxers, they'll say the hardest person to spar against was Katie Taylor, because she was so fast.